Ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to join you this morning at your annual CEO conference. I welcome the theme of this conference here, with its emphasis on design, and I know that it's appropriate for the year that's in it, and you're going to hear more, I know, from Karen Hennessy about the year of design later on. Let me welcome in particular, on behalf of the government, the theme of this session, with its emphasis on designing Ireland, because this actually truly epitomises where we are now as a country. After a number of years of very difficult adjustment, we are thinking and beginning to think with renewed optimism about where our country is going and all that we can achieve during a new phase of economic and social development for our people. You all remember the depth of the crisis that gripped Ireland just a few years ago. An economy in free fall, banks on the brink of collapse, thousands of jobs lost, and Ireland's international reputation in shreds, a country in a troika bailout. And against all that, the people gave a clear mandate to a new government: fix our public finances and get this country working again. When we met this time last year, we were beginning to speak about signs of recovery. This year, we can say with confidence now that the economic recovery has taken hold. And the evidence of that is before our eyes. We are enjoying strong economic growth. The European Commission forecasts that Ireland will have the fastest growth rate in the European Union in 2015 for the second year running. We had double-digit export growth in the first 3 quarters of 2014, and exports of Irish-owned companies reached a record high of €18 billion last year. Investment is up, growing more than 14% last year, with strong signals of confidence across the business sector, suggesting that this strong growth is set to continue. We see positive trends in our tourism statistics, in retail sales, in consumer sentiment, all pointing to renewed confidence in both the business sector and amongst the public in general. Government borrowing is falling rapidly from a peak of €22 billion in 2011 to around €5 billion this year, and we are on track, obviously, to reduce the deficit to well below 3% of GDP this year. Of course, families don't measure economic recovery in terms of GDP growth rates or bond yields or government deficits. What matters to them are jobs and their impact on people's lives and on their family finances. I'm glad to say that there is steady progress on this front also. Since the government launched its action plan for jobs, which you're aware of, back in 2012, Irish business has added about 90,000 jobs to the economy, just 10,000 short of the target that we set ourselves for 2016. You're aware of the figures in terms of unemployment, down to 10.3 from 15.1. Encouragingly, we are seeing significant reductions in the number of long-term unemployed people and young people unemployed. I agree with you, Danny, in terms of the 9% being breached later on. These positive developments have not happened by chance. They are the result of the sacrifices made by hundreds of thousands of people across the country. The corrective action that you and your employees have taken to safeguard your businesses, and they're down to policy decisions also taken by the government. I know that many families around the country are just beginning to feel the benefits of the recovery. They see where it is, but they want it to be translated into their own daily lives. So a key priority for the government for 2015 is to ensure that more and more people all over the country actually start to experience an economic recovery in their own lives. And job creation, therefore, remains an absolute top priority. Because, as you're aware, A job changes a person's life, gives purpose, dignity, financial independence, and allows one to provide for family and for community and therefore contribute. More jobs fund better services. More jobs generate the resources to reduce the tax burden on those already at work. And more jobs mean the opportunity for our families, for our relations, for our sons and daughters to come back home. And they are coming back, and we welcome them. And of course, it's also important to share more of the benefits of recovery with those already at work. So I welcome the increasing evidence that the private sector employers are once again beginning to agree and agreeing sustainable pay increases with their staff, aligned to firm level and sector-specific conditions. I think that's good. Local pay bargaining is clearly working for businesses and their staff. This government has no intention of returning to the old social partnership model of centralised pay determination that did so much damage to our competitiveness during the Celtic Tiger period. And so for the government's part, we've begun the process of cutting income taxes for workers with a particular and specific focus on low and middle income earners. When we last met before the last budget, I said that the 52% tax rate on middle income earners was anti-jobs, anti-enterprise and anti-investment. So in the budget, we reduced the USC and the income tax rate on middle income earners earning less than €70,000. We will reduce it further in the next budget and in the following budgets if the government is re-elected. For the first time in 7 years, working families are now seeing a modest rise in their take-home pay. So well-designed tax cuts that reward work and enterprise and help create jobs generate the resources that we need for better services and for more investment. Strong growth in jobs is funding tax cuts on working people, and less tax on work in turn means more jobs. And our goal for 2015 is to reinforce a virtuous circle of rising living standards, job creation, and improving public finances. We will also begin the process of equalising the income tax treatment of the employed and the self-employed. I want Irish entrepreneurs and small businesses to play a really significant role in delivering full employment. The discriminatory tax treatment of self-employed people inherited by this government can no longer be justified. And these tax changes, combined with the introduction of the Back to Work family incentive and increases to child benefit, will be a help to working families who still struggle after 7 years of difficult cutbacks. We also need to ensure that as the economy recovers, that vulnerable workers who lack bargaining power are paid fairly. Work must pay more than welfare, and those in full-time work should not be poor. And too often, that is not the case at the moment. And that is why the government has set up and is legislating for the Low Pay Commission. After the Low Pay Commission makes its recommendation in July, the government will respond to that by the October budget. For employers, a benefit of the Low Pay Commission concept is that in assessing the national minimum wage annually, any adjustments into the future will be incremental and therefore far less disruptive for business compared with big changes in the past. I'm not in any way complacent about the need to maintain our competitiveness. When the minimum wage was increased in July 2011, we simultaneously halved the lower 8.5% rate of employers' PRSI to offset the impact on employment costs. And to protect jobs, I will once again ask government to look at measures to mitigate the impact of any increase to the minimum wage, particularly for small employers. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic recovery, as I've said on many occasions, remains both fragile and incomplete. Irish families and Irish businesses need a solid foundation on which to plan their futures, but many are nervous about the risks ahead and about the dangers of slipping backwards. My commitment as Taoiseach and Head of Government to the Irish people is that under this administration we are never going back. Through our spring economic statement, which will be issued in April, the government will set out a 5-year programme and plan to 2020 to secure the recovery, including a commitment to deliver sustainable full employment by 2018, and by that I mean anybody who wants a job will be able to get a job. It's a highly ambitious goal, but it's achievable. To achieve this, we will need to help businesses add at least 40,000 new jobs this year, and to add the same again in 2016, in 2017, and in 2018, at which point we will have recovered and restored every job lost during the recession with new, more sustainable jobs. And that can only be achieved by a government that makes the right choices, one that protects the strong foundations that have been laid, and one that ensures that the very hard-won recovery is both sustained and endures. And at the very heart of that plan will be a commitment to protect the hard-won restoration of our national competitiveness and our stability in managing public finances. We're not going back to the days of boom and bust economics, as they were called, and the when we have it, we spend it approach to budget management of governments of the past. Nor are we going back to the culture and the practices of speculation, of lack of oversight, of wanton waste of public money, and blatant disregard for our international reputation. We will eliminate the remaining gap between government revenues and spending by maintaining, very importantly, discipline over public spending, while making the space for both personal tax reform and the big increase in investment in key services and in infrastructure that are needed by a growing population. See, faced with claims coming in from all departments and ministers now, not for 1 million, but for hundreds of millions for all kinds of very worthy projects and proposals. And it's managing expectations of a rising economy that sometimes cause difficulties, and we're not going to allow that to happen. And in doing so, we want to deliver steady and sustainable growth that does not have to be paid for and will not have to be paid for by our children. And this approach will keep interest rates low by bringing government debt to well below the European average by 2020, and will help protect our recovery against the risks that still lie up ahead. So, government's plan will consolidate Ireland's position as a location of choice for new investments and for job creation in a whole range of new and traditional sectors, not just for foreign multinationals, but for our own Irish-owned businesses across the country. I'm very proud of these and see them growing and expanding and beginning to export more in so many areas. And of course, we'll hold on to our 12.5% corporation tax rate, irrespective of what pressure is brought to bear from whatever quarter. So, there's renewed optimism around the country, and there's a strong basis for this optimism. Even in the year since we last met, we've witnessed further considerable improvements in the performance of Ireland's economy. I believe that the recovery that we're now experiencing can be just the beginning of a more sustainable, authentic, and fairer phase of long-term economic development and prosperity for all our people. I also believe that if we now secure the recovery, it will translate into real improvements in people's daily lives. Fair rewards, as they say, for hard work, not quick profits for speculation. Steady growth, not boom and bust. But it's fair to say the recovery is fragile, and as we've seen in so many other countries, hard-won economic stability and progress and credibility can be very easily reversed. We're not going to let that happen here. Without political stability, there can be no economic stability. And without economic stability, there will neither be investment nor confidence. So let me say to you, the government will continue for the remainder of its administrative responsibilities to continue our work to secure that recovery, to strengthen the impact of that recovery on the daily lives of our people. I'm very optimistic about the future of our country. With steady hands on the tiller here, I see a very bright future up ahead. And I want to wish you every success with today's conference. The door is open any time for people with good propositions. This is a government that is open for business. It's a government that listens to people who see obstacles on the way to further expansion and further job creation. There's your invitation. Good luck to you for your conference. Thanks very much.